Hello, this is David Gillespie, and I am going to be talking to you today about my Smart Notebook lesson that I created, which is a Civil War review. Okay, so the Civil War review that I created is restart. Hi, everybody. This is David Gillespie, and I am coming to you through the interweb today to talk to you about my Smart Notebook lesson. I created a lesson on a Civil War review. The lesson would be used at the end of a unit on the Civil War, and I created this lesson to be able to have students who, prepare for tests in a variety of ways. I have differentiated the instruction here to help visual learners and to help people who are good at more traditional trivia games like multiple choice questions, stuff that they're going to see that's going to be similar on the tests, perhaps, as well as some other, audio visual aids, audio being, when they're talking to their friends about things, and there's a lot of visual, tactile, when they're being able to use the board, and I think a lot of different types of kids are going to be able to benefit from this. So, my lesson objectives are, at the conclusion of this lesson, students will be able to 1. Test their factual knowledge of the American Civil War through interactive, differentiated instructions and activities. 2. Complete a color-coded map key and appropriately label a map according to instructions. And finally, 3. To accurately use the scale key on a map to help analyze a map. Alright, my teacher notes. Here we go. First off, the subject is history or social studies. The topic is the U.S. Civil War Review, games, activities. Grades, I thought this would be good for grades starting even in 6th grade up through 10. Or, you can go a little further than that, but I thought especially that age group, I think, once you get beyond that, some of those students might rebel a little bit, think it's a little too corny, but I think that especially that age group right there, I think that would be very good for them. Prior knowledge, as I said, this is the final review session before a unit test on the United States Civil War. And so prior knowledge would be the unit that we've been discussing the whole period. And the cross-curricular links is geography, because I'm going to be going through several different maps and different ways to analyze those maps. Lesson notes. As I said before, an overall view of this lesson. The purpose of this lesson is to use at the end of a unit on the Civil War. The activities are designed to use different forms of review as a means of differentiating tests and preparation, as you're going to see through these page notes. Page 1, I have a pair of swirling vertices that are put under two different categories, as I'm going to show you. The categories are the Battle of Gettysburg and the Battle of the First Bull Run, and there are going to be facts displayed on the bottom. And so multiple students can come up to the board, they see a fact, and I'm going to go over this. They can drag a fact to the correct vortex, spinning vortex, and if they are correct in their, where they placed their fact, then the fact will disappear, and then they can move on to the next fact. Otherwise, they can go, if they drag it to the wrong place, it spits it out, and they know they need to try again. Page 2 is an interactive timeline. You see a whole list of dates. I will go through that with you. Students can quiz each other on what they remember that date, and then they can click on the small dot that is next to the date that's associated with to see the event that took place on that date. As I said, we'll go through that. Page 3, traditional multiple choice quiz section. There's 5 different questions on different tabs with 4 different options. If students are correct in their guessing, the little next button will appear, and they can go through that. And just click next, and the next question will appear. In pages 4 and 5, final pages, I really focus on integrating different geography concepts into my reviewing unit because maps are very important, especially when studying the Civil War. And so for the first map on page 4, you'll see a map of the United States that is color-coded, and I have instructions on there that they need to identify the various regions that are color-coded on the map. So, for example, you'll see red, and then students will have to go up and use the smart markers, or pens as we call them, and write the word Confederates next to it. And then dark blue on this map represents the Union during the war, and so they would go up and write next to next to the color dark blue, they would write Union, and so on. Also on that map, you will see a list of battles that they need to mark. They can either mark that with the first letter of the battle, or however they feel most comfortable doing that. They can say they have to go up and they write, for example, the Battle of Antietam. You'll see that. They need to go find Antietam on the map, or I mean Maryland on the map, and then mark a little A in it. This really helps students to reinforce their understanding of the map, both in where these different battles took place, as well as just getting a good, solid foundation for where all the different states are. Which surprisingly or not, it's very important, and a lot of students very easily get mixed up with that. Finally, on page 5, I have a specific battle map, and here I want students to analyze that map by using an interactive ruler that appears on the page that they can use to go up, and they can change the scale of the ruler. They can change it around. There's a small key that says the scale in miles, and I want them to be able to measure the distance between various important places on the map. And finally, on page 6, we have the works cited. So let me show you through very quickly. Here's page 1. As I said, this is very good for visual learners. It kind of draws people in with that swirling vortex. It kind of hypnotizes you. And so what students will see here is, for example, this is Stonewall Jackson, earns his nickname. You can drag this over to Battle of First Bull Run, and it absorbs it. Or you can see, for example, Pickett's Charge. Oh, that's Battle of Gettysburg. It absorbs it. But if you see something that says Manassas, and you bring it to Gettysburg, it pops it out and leaves it on the page. Okay? And then you can do this with multiple different groups of students. Say you have different kids doing different things at once. Another group can come up, hit reset, and those ones that have been absorbed will reappear. Next, you have the timeline, the interactive timeline. Students can quiz each other on the date. They can go up and say, what happened on April 12th, 1861, and somebody can say, oh, I think it was the firing on Fort Sumter. So what they'll do is they'll go up, they'll click, oh, war begins with the Confederate bombardment at Fort Sumter. Let me move this a little bit over here. And this is just, the short instructions when the group of students get up there. Or say, May 4th, 1864. What is it? Oh, they can click on it and they say, oh, it's the Battle of the Wilderness beginning, and the beginning of the Overland Campaign. Okay, so there's 10 different dates here, dealing with political, social. For example, here this is the Lincoln assassination. So it gives them a good idea of the timeline, to a visual representation of that. I think that's very important. Moving on, this is the traditional, multiple choice things that they're going to see very much on their tests. So students who excel in visually seeing what they're going to be replicating on the test, this might be very helpful. So for example, who assassinated Abraham Lincoln? You have your 4 choices here: Robert E. Lee, Mary Todd Lincoln, John Hinchman, or John Wilkes Booth. So if we click on John Wilkes Booth, it will take us to the next. Let me go here, next. What day did Abraham Lincoln issue the Emancipation Proclamation? It was January 1st, 1863. But just to see what happens when we get wrong, you can click on November 7th, 1865. Boom, wrong. Click on the right answer. Okay? So you get the gist. Next, we have the um, map activity. This is very good for students who are trying to get a good grasp of what the country looked like at that time. So what I'll have students do is come up, they can use the tools here. I'm going to have to use it through the pen in software. But say I want to write red up here, go down to red, I'll write Confederacy, and you can see I'm not very good at writing like this. But you get the gist, this is Confederacy, and whew, that's really bad. But when students are using a pen just like they would writing in their notebooks, it would be very good. So that's that, and then you can see over here, mark the state in which the following battles occurred. You see Antietam, you can come up here and say A for Antietam, okay, because it occurred in Maryland. That way they have a spatial understanding of where these different battles occurred. You can see Gettysburg. This happened up here in Pennsylvania, G for Gettysburg. All right, so that's that map. And finally, a map that I think is going to be very helpful for students. Let me go back. Just do the select. Okay. Here we have a map of the breakthrough at Petersburg on April 2nd, 1865. And here, which I think is a very interesting tool, is the interactive ruler. Now what we can do is we can shrink this down a little bit, and you can see this is divided up into both centimeters and into inches. I can bring this over here, put it to my scale, and figure out, I already did the math earlier, that it's a little over 2 inches. And then from there, they can say, okay, I want to know the difference, between from Harmon here, which is an important place in the battlefield, and say over here at Fort Gregg. What's the difference there? How is that going to make a difference? I'm sorry, let me put that back to scale. How is it going to make a difference in the battle? So what we'll do is we'll put it here on Harmon right in the corner, then I'll drag this over, and then right here, students can shift this and find out what the distance between Fort Gregg and the Harmon house is. Okay? And then they can measure that and then translate that measurement into miles using our handy scale. And I think that using this technology really opens students up to exploring new ways to understand maps, because you see this scale and then you kind of use your thumb and place it like, okay, maybe that was a couple miles, but using the ruler on the map, it really gives an idea to students, how long is the Boydton Plank Road? What is that like for the soldiers who were there? And I think that's a really interesting tool, and I think that will be very helpful in their understanding of geography, as well as their understanding of what happened on the ground. That's pretty much it. Final page here is my works cited, where I got the maps, and that's it. Thank you very much for listening. This is David Gillespie. Goodbye.